begin signing in now. Good to see you all. We've got some exciting things to do today. Let me get a little more light here. There we go. At least I think they're exciting. I have a feeling you will have a mixed reaction to some of these things, but that's okay. That's what school is all about. So my goal in life is not your comfort or happiness, although I don't want to purposely make your life more difficult than I have to. But I wouldn't really be a teacher if I didn't make your life a little bit difficult. But actually, the things we are going to talk about today are, I think, really interesting and are going to be a real help to you as a choir member and choir leader of some type now and especially in the future. And remember, as I've said in our gatherings, that the purpose of the BJMBC chorus is ultimately what happens away from BJMBC. And so I've got a number of assignments I'm going to be talking to you about that you're going to be working on throughout the semester, in addition to the recording things that you've already started doing. And I'll talk a little bit more about those as well. And then before we are done today, I will have you get up and do some things with me. We're going to do a quick review of some fundamentals of singing technique. Mainly, we'll talk about posture and breathing and do some things to kind of make sure that we are all thinking correctly about those. Okay, somebody is putting a comment here. The audio is not that clear, but we can understand. Is my audio a bit low right now? Okay, let me try. I wonder if these things are still turned on. Let me check real quick here. Okay, is that any better? Does that make a difference or not yet? Yeah, okay. Well, evidently I was talking to you through the microphone on these things, which were sitting in this little box on my desk. That would explain. Anyway, I'm still learning how Bluetooth stuff like that actually functions. All right, so this is better. Nod your head if it's better. Okay. All right, good. Lastly, we need to get a few more people on camera. So Christian and Shannon and Hannah, if you can go ahead and turn your cameras on, unless you've got a serious problem with bandwidth, okay? Great. Love to see your faces. All right. We need to go to the Lord in prayer to start out our rehearsal time here. So let's see, John Vincent Baculier, could you lead us in prayer, please?
Okay, sir. Let's pray. Panginoon, maraming salamat po sa araw na ito. Maraming salamat sa panibagong buhay na inyong ibigay sa amin. Naway ito po ay magamit namin sa paglilingkod sa inyo. Panginoon, i-bless niyo po ang aming time sa chorus at ang lahat ng aming matutunan ay magamit po namin sa aming paglilingkod sa inyo. Naway maging kagamit-gamit ang bawat isa sa amin sa papasagana ng inyong gawain po, Panginoon. Dalayan ko po na patuloy niyo po ingatan ang bawat isa sa amin, especially ang aming mga teachers. Give them wisdom as they teach, and give us also wisdom to understand your word and their teachings. In Jesus' name we pray, amen.
Amen. Thank you. All right, I'm going to go to screen share in just a second here and show you a couple things that I posted to the group. So let me screen share my second desktop. There we go. All right, so I believe you can see my Google Classroom right now. Is that right? Okay, good. When you go here, you'll notice that I have put two new things in the classwork, okay? Down under organizational materials. If you click on that, you'll find now a syllabus and an assignment sheet. And I'll show those to you in just a moment, but they're here now. And it looks like I've already posted a playlist. So that's you're gonna be using that playlist as well. So those are the three things that you need to be paying attention to this week: syllabus, the assignments, and for at least one of the assignments or two, you'll be using the playlist that I have developed on YouTube. I'll be double checking that. I was looking at it earlier and I saw some things that, like, is that all I put there? So I need to double check that, which I will do later today. But those are new things there. Now, let's look at the actual class outline. All right. Now, can you see that fairly clearly? Can you read it?
It's a little small.
Okay, I can try expanding. Is that better? Okay. Great. If at all possible, I would encourage you to, if you have a device with a screen that's bigger than a phone, it would be good to use that in your classes and your lessons if possible. All right, so here is the class outline, and you'll notice down in the schedules that I have marked down just the Thursdays because that's mainly when we are meeting. I still do reserve the right to call for an extra Tuesday or Friday meeting as needed, but I'm not planning for those right now. I'm just planning for the Thursdays. So up here is how your chorus grade will be tabulated this semester. It's a bit different from the past. In the past, 53% of your grade would be attendance. Why is that? Because attendance means being at rehearsal, and rehearsal is where the work gets done in an ensemble. And so it was a major part of the grade. Obviously, we're in a different situation right now. So I've lowered that, and what I have given in place are the kinds of things that might be done or discussed in a rehearsal. In a typical rehearsal, while we're learning parts and mastering, I would ask you, like, I'll say, okay, sopranos, let's sing this page. And then I might ask the rest of the chorus, okay, what did you guys think about that? Or did you hear how the sopranos were sharp on this note? Or where did you hear mistakes? So I would be asking you to listen to each other and critique. So I've given you a listening project that is going to simulate that experience. Score study project, I'll be explaining the details of these, but in rehearsal, I would be talking to you about what's going on, the structure of the piece, how we have something happening at the beginning, and then it seems like it gets repeated, and then the composer does something very different. Why are they doing that? What's going on? And I would be discussing those things throughout the rehearsal. I would not sit down and give a lecture, but I would be pointing those things out throughout our rehearsal time. So again, to simulate that, I'm giving you a small score study project. That's actually, it's going to be quite simple. We'll talk about audience analysis. In rehearsal, again, I will often talk to you about how this song might work for your church, or maybe how it would not work for your church and why. either for or against those kinds of things. We would be talking about the use of the music that we're singing in rehearsal in real life, like in your church. And part of that would be thinking about your audience, your congregation, and what music would be appropriate to use to help them. And then, of course, in rehearsal, we would be talking about the lyrics frequently. Once we had learned the parts, we would be talking about what's being said, what biblical truths are behind those things, applying them to ourselves. All of that would be happening in rehearsal. And so to simulate that, I'm going to have you do some lyrics analysis. And then, of course, in rehearsal, we would be learning parts. And you've already started working on that, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. And then the other two things that we always do in chorus is we have a notebook where you collect information about all the music that we work on in chorus. And so you're going to do that just like normal. But you'll be using the score as you see it in the My Choral Coach. And then lastly, there's verse memorization, just like we do every semester. And so that's the breakdown. So what I've tried to do, since we can't have a normal kind of choral experience, I want you to keep growing in all of those components that would make up a normal part of the choral experience at BGMBC, the kinds of things we are going for. Now, you might be looking at that and saying, whoa, wait a minute, this is a 1-unit class. This is too much. Well, don't worry, it's not going to be too much, I promise. Plus, chorus normally meets 3 times a week. So I promise you this will not take you beyond that. If you work efficiently and effectively, I think you're going to be just fine. So down here in the schedule, you see the different kinds of things that we will be doing in our Thursday meetings, starting this week and following. And then over in the right-hand column, we have the homework due dates. All right. And so those are all there. Some days it's 1 thing due, some days it's 2 things due, all the way till the end of the semester. We still, of course, I still will be grading your attendance. Basically, we'll have had 18 total meetings. So however many you attend, I will divide that by the 18, and that will be the attendance. Obviously, we're not doing a performance this semester unless the government changes the current situation, but since they've declared for DepEd no classes until October, and even then it's not going to be face-to-face, it's looking very likely that we will not have face-to-face classes this semester. So probably no performance. Notebook, let's talk about this one. Many of you have already done the notebook in the past. Let me stop screen sharing. Everybody click on grid so that you can see each other, okay? Now, everybody who has completed a notebook, hit the reaction button, the thumbs up reaction button, because I know you loved doing the chorus notebook. Okay, just pop it up there. Now, everybody else who is new to chorus, look at this, okay? Everybody that you see with the thumbs up, go ahead and put it back up if it disappeared already. All of these people have completed a chorus notebook. You know what that means? You can go to them for help and ideas. All right, so make a note of those who've completed it. It's not as hard as it seems, but these people know how I grade the chorus notebook, and so they can help you be successful. One more time, everybody who has done it before, hit a thumbs up, please. Real quick. All right, pick somebody that is going to be the person you chase after. to get help. Okay, thank you. All right. Now we'll go back to speaker view here, and let's go back to screen share. And I will talk a little bit more about the notebook for those who've never completed it before. For the course notebook, what you're going to do is collect information for each piece of music that we are working on this semester. We have a total of 9 pieces actually that you will work on, but one of them I'm going to count as extra credit. So you're required to do this for 8 pieces. And here's what you're going to do. You're going to collect information about the repertoire. It's all here: title, composer, the author of the text, publisher, the voicing, etc., etc. Key changes, voice ranges, etc. All right. Plus comments. Did you like this or not? What was your favorite part about this piece? Maybe what you didn't like, etc. Rehearsal techniques we're not going to be able to have in the chorus notebook this time. No celebrating. I saw that, Jennifer. Warm-ups. We will be doing some warm-ups throughout the semester. You need to write them down. Okay, now Jennifer, you can rejoice again. You need to write down all of the warm-ups that we will be doing, and actually literally notate them. This can be done by hand. Ideally, it would be done in MuseScore, and you need to notate them enough so that you remember how the warm-up works, so that you can use it in the future. The point of the chorus notebook is to give you a resource that will be helpful to you later on when you get out, okay? In the notebook also, you should start collecting any scriptures or quotes that I will be giving or posting in the GC, and collecting those. So I'm cutting out the rehearsal techniques section, sadly, because in many ways that's the most important part, but the other parts are going to be very helpful to you. So if you have questions about that, talk to your classmates. I give you some more information down here. Okay, so that's the chorus notebook. And the memory verse is the passage that I told you the music faculty are using as a guide to praying for you this semester or this year. 1 Corinthians 2, verses 1 through 5. That's a little bit longer than I normally require for memory verse. So I'm giving you 3 percentage points of your grade instead of 2 percentage points like I normally do. All right, before we look at the other assignments, are there any quick questions about this schedule and the things I've talked about so far? Just unmute and ask away. All good? Nod your head. Okay. All right, then let's go to the other assignments, and let me make this a little bit bigger. All right, we've got several assignments. I've already given you the rationale behind them. Let me explain each of them to you now very briefly. One is the listening project, and I have created a playlist with these 3 songs: When I Survey, Blessed is the Man, and He Shall Come Again in Glory. Now, I did not post the playlist hyperlink here, but you can find it in that other sheet in the GC. Now, for some of these, there are multiple performances, like the When I Survey is a very famous arrangement of that song done by many choirs. And so I think I've got 3 or 4 different choirs singing it. So you're going to listen to all of those performances of that one song. For Blessed is the Man, I think there is 2. He Shall Come Again in Glory, I can't remember, there's 2, maybe 3. And what you're going to do is you're going to listen for LP1, you're going to work with When I Survey. You're going to listen to each of the performances and you're going to take notes about these areas: diction, tone quality, that's really the beauty of the sound and the blend of the sound, intonation, tuning, the musicality, expressiveness, phrasing, and overall beauty of the music itself, but especially of the performance. And then the impact, how you feel this particular performance works. So what we're analyzing here is not so much the arrangement. So I don't want you to comment so much on, okay, well, the arrangement did this and did that. What I want is for you to analyze the performance of the song and compare and contrast the various performances of the same song. So when you listen to choir number 1, you make these notes. Then you listen to choir number 2, you make the same notes, but then you compare it to choir number 1. Was it better? Was it worse? Was it neither better or worse? Was it just different? Was it exactly the same? What were the strengths and weaknesses? So you're going to compare these. You're going to sit in judgment on these choirs. Pretend that you are a competition judge listening to choirs. All right? And those are the areas that you will be taking notes. So you're going to analyze and comment on each of those aspects for each performance, plus compare and contrast. All right? You're going to type this up in a Google Doc, or you could use Google Sheets. I am not creating a form for you to fill out. For most of these, you're going to have to be real college students and actually think about your presentation of your homework as well as the content. So do think about that, because I will grade on your presentation as well as the actual content. So please do this with care. All right. I make a note up here that you'll be creating all of these in Google Docs, or you can use Google Sheets and then submitting them through the GC. Then score, any questions, sorry, about listening project? All good?
So we're only going to be using Google Docs, not like Word, Microsoft Word, or anything like that.
I would say it'll be easier probably for submitting and for my having it all collated in the GC to just go ahead and use Google Docs. Now, if it's easier for you, you could do it in whatever you want on your computer and then copy and paste it into Google Docs. So if you're like working in Word or don't want to be online for very long, do it in Word or whatever you have on your device, and then go online and copy and paste it into a Google Doc. Good question. Anybody else?
Doc, in what GC?
Google Classroom, the Chorus Google Classroom. Sorry, that's nobody came up with a better one. Sorry, Jennifer. So I'm just going to call it GC and live with that, even though it still sounds a little bit too close to CR for my liking, but I'm going to call it GC. All right, so yes, turn it in, Christian, to the Google Classroom for Chorus. Okay, any other questions? Some of you are new to Chorus. Maybe some of you have never sung in a choir before. That's okay. All you need to do is listen with both ears and pay attention to what you're hearing. And for some, that's going to be the most difficult part of this project, to not be distracted by other things. Even though it's a video playlist, you don't have to comment on their clothes or their hair or their facial expression. Now, you can pay attention to those things, but actually, I want you to primarily just pay attention to what they sound like and then compare them. All right, no other questions? Let's go to the score study project. Now, for this, what you're going to do for these 3 songs that I have listed here is, first of all, you're going to gather the information that you're going to be putting in your chorus notebook. Okay, so going back here, all of this information under repertoire, okay? You're going to be collecting all of that. So that's going to save you some time on your chorus notebook, a little bit. All right, so for the first song, you'll put, for Sing to the Lord, you're going to put the chorus notebook information, plus I want you to go through and list all the difficult places in the voice parts. Now, you're going to know this partly because you will have already sung all of those voice parts for another component for the repertoire learning. But you also are going to use your eyes and just go through the score and take note of, oh, that's a really high note, or that's a weird rhythm, or wow, how did the tenors find their note there? Those kinds of things. You're just going to make a list of those difficult spots, difficult or challenging spots, okay? So that's the first step. The second step is to draw a diagram, a thought or emotion timeline. Let me, real quick here, switch my screen sharing over to my little notebook. By now, you know I love these this particular little feature. I'm assuming that they have this, something like this, on Android devices as well. But I will admit to you, I really like this little feature in iPad of having this kind of little notebook to write on. All right, so what do I mean by a diagram? Now, if you have already had music theory or conducting with me, then you're familiar with this concept. And when I say a timeline, that's kind of what I mean. So let's just take, for example, If You Love Me, all right? You've already sung that, so you know it a little bit. So I'm going to draw a timeline to represent the flow of the piece. Now, it may not need 3 lines, okay? But you're going to put a little bit of the text. If you love me, keep my commandments. And what's the next section? And I will pray the Father. And then what's the next section? And he shall give you another comforter, right? Those are the first 3 sections for that song. And then what's the next? That he may abide with you forever. And then what's the last one? In the spirit of truth. Isn't that funny? I've often wondered, why did Thomas Tallis contract the word spirit into one single syllable? Whenever I conduct, in the spirit of truth, in the spirit of truth, he puts it as, he gives it one note, which drives me crazy. And I've heard different performances doing it different ways. I always just turn it into a 2-syllable note and just repeat, in the spirit of truth, in the spirit of truth, or something like that. I kind of simplify it a little bit. Why he did that, I don't know. Anyway, in your timeline, you're going to do that, to just mark out. So you're going to have to pay attention to where each section begins. Now, in that piece, it's easy to tell because with each new bit of text, he does something completely different with the music, doesn't he? Now, in some of your other pieces, like, I must tell Jesus, probably it's going to be verse, chorus, verse 2, chorus, verse 3. It's going to be pretty easy, probably going by verse. Easier maybe than If You Love Me. But you're going to create a timeline showing that. And then I want you to be creative in depicting the flow and thought of the song. So I want some kind of visual representation about the emotion. Is it strong emotional push? Is it gentle? Is it intense? Is it happy? Is it sad? Is it something else? I want you to try to create an emotional plot for the music. Now, you are welcome to go on to YouTube and find recordings if you can. The problem is you're not going to find. You need to, if you find a recording, it needs to be a recording of the actual music you're working with, not some other arrangement. So a lot of this you're just going to have to do with your eyes and with what you felt as you were singing the voice parts. So you're going to visually represent the emotion in the flow of the piece. I also want you to visually represent the thoughts, like the main ideas or truths. I want you to somehow include those in this timeline. I want to know, what are the main ideas and where do they fall? And it's like, ultimately what I'm hoping you're going to discover is the progression of thought and the connection to emotion. Did the composer do something with the emotional impact of the music to somehow be connected with the thoughts of the text? What link is there? Hopefully there is a link between them. Maybe you'll discover there isn't a link in some places. Or maybe you'll say, why did the composer give this feeling at this point in the text? Maybe you'll find that you don't, it's kind of weird. That's okay too. But the point of the exercise is for you to actually be paying attention to those things, looking at, listening, and then I want to see you visually represent that. And you're going to have to be creative. All right? Extra credit points for creativity. Any questions about this assignment? Okay. Either I'm doing a great job at describing these things, or you are just feeling so overwhelmed that you're speechless. I'll pretend it's the first rather than the second of those two options. All right, audience analysis. You're going to do this for each of the three pieces, all right, but just one at a time. And in this project, I'm asking you to think about your church, your literal, real church that you are a member of and that you are worshiping in, all right? And I want you to, first of all, think about the lyrics of the song in relation to your church. In other words, imagining your congregation hearing this song in a church service sung by your church choir. What are they going to get out of it? So here's the things I want you to think about. in what ways would day by day speak to my congregation? How would it reach them? What, in other words, what are the strengths of this song that my audience will actually get? So if I sing this on a Sunday, what do I think my congregation is going to get out of it? Just hearing it one time sung by the choir. What hindrances, if any, are there to my using this? Like if I were to use this arrangement in my church, is there a hindrance to that? Could I, or why would I not use this in my church? Focusing just on the words. Let's say that, an obvious example would be, let's say that your church is in an area where 80% of the congregation has their English skills are not very strong. Now, that's not a criticism of a congregation. They don't have to be good in English necessarily. So let's just say, for the sake of discussion, let's say I see Dan sitting there. At Dan's church, Dan Ugai's church, they have a Tagalog service and they have an English service, at least in normal times. So maybe he might say, well, if I use day by day in my Tagalog service, most of the people attending there aren't going to really understand the words, or they're going to have trouble understanding it. Maybe because the poetry is a little bit, poetry word orders get changed around a little bit. Maybe it's the poetry, maybe it's the vocabulary. Maybe it's that there's so many English words across the 4 minutes of the piece that it's just kind of overwhelming and the congregation doesn't have a chance to process the words because it goes too quickly. I'm not saying this is true of this particular group, but just an idea of the kinds of things you should be thinking about. All right. So then the third part of that question is, what could I do to enhance its effectiveness in teaching and admonishing? Let's say I feel like maybe day by day could be effective for my congregation. There are a couple question marks. What can I do to make sure this really teaches and admonishes my congregation? So those are the kinds of things I want you to think about for each of the 3 songs. Then you're going to do the same thing for the music. So first, you're doing it about the lyrics, and then you're going to try to answer the same questions in terms of the music itself, the musical sound, the style, etc. Okay? And then the last thing you're going to do is decide, do I think I'm going to use this for my church or not? Obviously, there's no right or wrong answer to that. It really depends on your church and how you answered the previous questions. But the goal of this is to bring you to a point of making a determination. Will I do this or not? Okay, any questions about that?
I have a question, sir.
Yes, Ezekiel, go ahead.
With the audience analysis project, because we have also in the congregation, there are the faithful ones, the regular members, and then there are those who come only on Sundays. So which part of the congregation should we consider? Because like in my part, okay, sir.
Yeah, that's a great question, and the answer is all of it. Because you just said yourself, they're all there on Sunday morning. Your Sunday morning audience, if you will, is always going to be mixed, isn't it? You're going to have believers. You're going to have who are walking with the Lord. You're going to have backslidden believers. You're going to have strong believers and immature newborn babes in Christ, and you're going to have unbelievers. So you've got to, I want you to think about your congregation in its entirety. The people who are going to hear your choir sing. So that means your answers to these questions are not going to just be simple one phrase answers, are they? Going to have to really think about what's going on or what you want to have happen, and if this particular song is going to meet that need. Now, I think you understand, primarily the music we do in our churches is for Christians. So that you can reflect on that in your answers, of course. You know, ostensibly you are ministering primarily to people who want to grow in the Lord. But that's not everybody that's going to be there. So you need to take all of that into consideration. Okay? Good question. Any other questions about the audience analysis? Okay? All right. Let's quickly move on here to the lyric.
I have another
Sorry,
question, sir.
Yeah, go ahead.
What if, for example, sir, the congregation doesn't know the song?
That's what you have to wrestle with. That's why this project, you've got to be thinking literally about your church and answer these questions in relationship to your church. So you might say, you know what? We have never sung I Will Sing the Wondrous Story in my church, ever. Okay, well, that factors in to your audience analysis. Good. All right. So this is a very real project. That's one of the things I was excited about when I developed this particular bit. I was kind of excited because you're going to have to really apply these thoughts to real life. Okay, quickly, lyrics analysis. This is pretty straightforward. For each song, I want you to try to identify all the scriptural references, whether it's a quote or a paraphrase or an idea, and create a list for each song. You're going to have to do some thinking, obviously. You're going to have your Bible in front of you, maybe a Bible app with a good search feature so that you can look things up and ideas. And I don't mind if you get a little help on this, if you want to talk to other people or talk to your pastor, that's okay. But for those 3 songs, try to list as many scriptural references as possible. And then lastly is the repertoire learning. And I'm formalizing this a bit more. This is starting with number 2, by the way. You don't have to go back to number 1. But for number 2, you are going to be singing all 4 parts of each song and recording them. Now, with each song, I'm going to give you a bit of instruction, as you started to see last night. And I only assigned 1 part. I'll finish making out the assignments. It's kind of slow. For some reason in that app, I can't just assign, sing the bass part and assign it to all of you. I have to do it one singer at a time. So it means for each song, I have to do each of you 4 times, which is a pain. I was falling asleep doing it last night. Okay, I got to go to bed. But I will finish laying that all out. So basically, you just need to learn all the parts. Sometimes I'll have you do it on solfege, which is for this one, sometimes on words. You'll just have to follow the instructions, okay? And record each of them with about a 90% accuracy. Okay, and that's it. And if I go back here, again, you'll notice that I've spread these out quite a bit. So next week, now listening practice today is the 20th. Your first listening practice, I said, was due today. Obviously, not yet. I will make sure everything is posted, and then I will post a due date for you. Okay. Kind of by, what I'll probably say is by Tuesday, so that you can have it totally done. So in a sense, you've got 3 assignments due by next Thursday, but the LP1 I'll probably make due by Monday or Tuesday, and then the SSP1 and the RL2 will be due by next Thursday, beginning of class. Okay. And then we'll be doing lots of cool discussions and some singing. We're going to sing. We are actually going to sing in chorus at the same time. Isn't that amazing? Really remarkable. Who would have thought? Okay. Any last questions? I was going to get into some singing essentials, but we're down to the last 2 minutes here. So I will wait and do that next week. Any questions on the homework? How many of you hate using My Choral Coach? How many of you like it? How many of you really like it? Anybody? Okay, there's a few hands there. I'm glad. Okay. It's not the same as singing together, and it can't be, but it is a useful tool. And you will have learned and somewhat mastered, at least to a certain level, 8 or 9 songs this semester, which is about the amount of repertoire we would normally work on. Maybe we would do a little bit more, but somewhere around 8 to 10 songs in a typical semester. So, and then if Lord willing, if second semester we are allowed to meet together, we'll get together and see what happens. We'll sing through these songs and see if it all locks into place like I hope it does. All right, last chance for questions. Our time is about up. Okay, there's, hold on 1 second. I just saw this.
Low. Battery, please charge.
A list of call outs for the class. So I'm going to open that, and some of you are going to need to go visit the office. Well, it's not letting me open it. So I'll send them a note and tell them that I tried. Okay, I'm just going to save our chats so that I have a list of who's here today. All right, thank you very much. Have a good afternoon. And enjoy Ninoy Aquino Day tomorrow. Remember his excellent words, the Filipino is worth dying for. I love that statement. Every Christian should feel that way about the lost world around them and the people around them. All right, take care.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you po, sir.